Hi guys, it's Olivia and welcome back to my channel. It's good to be here. And again, thank you guys for over 100 subscribers, almost 130 now. I don't even know how that's possible. Thank you guys so much. So today, as requested in the vote, we are going to be looking at cutscenes. I wrote down 6 that I will be covering today, and I'll be talking about what draft it was from Exposed, because I have 2 other drafts besides my 3rd one. So what draft it was from, as well as kind of the scene, things like that. Kind of what the scene was about. And if you have, any other questions, or if you even want me to read one of these scenes, let me know down in the comments, because honestly, it'd be really funny to look back at my old writing and read some of those scenes. So, yeah, I'm gonna jump right into it. So here we go. So the first cutscene I want to talk about, which is really funny to me now, looking back, was in my first draft when I was writing it back in 2022. And I call it Harold, Persephone, and Paul bonding. So you may be wondering, Olivia, what does this mean? So basically, Harold is Persephone's adopted son, right? And technically Paul's adopted son too, even though Paul in this draft doesn't really, not very much of a father figure. But in the first draft, that relationship was very weird, because Harold and Persephone were kind of close, and then Paul was also kind of there as a father figure a lot more than in this draft. So it's really funny, because I think Paul and Harold hug at one point, and it's just very weird and awkward for me to read back. And then Persephone's like, "Aw, look, we're bonding." Yeah, but that there's it was cut because I wanted Paul to be more of a bad father on top of everything else. So I cut that scene because him hugging his son would show that, he kind of cares about Harold, and no, not anymore. Okay. So the next scene or scenes I would like to address are the Trinity escape rooms. That's what I call it. So you may be wondering, what the heck is that? And, okay. So this was also in my draft 1. And at the time I was writing this, it was in the beginning of 2023. Either beginning of 2023 or end of 2022. I was really into escape rooms. So into them. Still kind of am. I think the last escape room I went to was June. So much fun. I love escape rooms. I love finding, the little stuff. It's so great. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, what if we do something like that with Trinity and the gang at near the end of my draft 1, and have the other characters with her and herself drink these vials as they're trying to go escape a room, and the vials have really bad effects. I'm not even joking. No reason why it was there. It was just for pure joy. Yeah, but they all got these weird side effects, and then they had to go try and escape through the escape room. There were walls closing in them. There was fake fire at one point. I don't even know what I was doing. But that was the gist. And basically, I don't know what the purpose of these escape rooms were, which was why I cut it. And then also, I don't know what the purpose of the vials were, which was another reason why I cut it. It literally did not make sense in the story. It was I inserted something, and it was a whole different plot, legitimately. So that's why I cut it, and I had to go figure out something else to do for those 3 chapters that I put it in. 3 chapters of insaneness. If you want me to post those, I will, because they are so funny. Not even joking. To me, they are very funny. And it shows in my old writing style just shining through, meaning it's really bad writing as of then. I've improved. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I've improved. But it's really funny. So, Trinity escape rooms. Woohoo! So next, this came from my draft 2. And this was also for pure enjoyment. Persephone was drunk at one point. In this one scene, I can't spoil what happens in the scene, because this scene also happens in my 3rd draft, except she's not drunk during it. I don't know why I wrote Persephone drunk, and it's a really serious scene, too. It's where she's being she's agreeing to something. Basically, that's all I can say. She's agreeing to something. So, In the original scene that I wrote it, she was agreeing to this thing while being drunk. And it was kind of like she didn't really know what she was agreeing to because she was drunk. You know? Yeah, she was very tipsy. It was very fun to write. I showed it to everyone that I know, and they all laughed, and so did I. And yeah, I kind of regret cutting it. The reason I cut it is because I really wanted her to, like, understand the gravity of the agreement and then kind of be forced to agree to it in the end. Because in the end, she wasn't forced to agree to this certain thing. I cannot tell you what it was because it does show up in draft 3, so I'm so sorry to all of you who are wondering. Yes, but that is cut because I just wanted her to know the full extent of what she was agreeing to in this scene instead of being kind of too out of it to understand. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the reason why I cut it. And it was recent too. I wrote that last year. So if anybody, like, once the book is published, I will definitely, like, I want to go back to that scene and show people it because it's funny to me. Okay, so then we have another scene from draft 1 that was cut, and I call it the epic Paul and Atlas glass fight. What is that, you may ask? Well, at one point in my draft 1, we have Atlas and Paul kind of like fighting physically and verbally. There we go. I was like looking for a word for a second. I'm like, what word? Yeah, but they're fighting physically and verbally. And Atlas, so like they're fighting physically and verbally because of something. It was something about, what was it? It was like Paul had lied to him, basically, about something. And Atlas used to be a very different character. So he was like, oh, let's go, like, hurt this guy. Because Atlas is not like that anymore. Like, his personality has evolved. But he's not a sweetheart he's a sweetheart now. But he wasn't a sweetheart then. So basically, during this fight, Atlas ends up finding a piece of glass randomly on the ground of his cell and decides to try and stab Paul with it in the throat. I'm not even joking. This is a real thing. It's funny, though, because he's just like, randomly sees a piece of glass, friggin' distracts him, goes toward piece of glass, tackles the guy, about to hurt him, and then Persephone shows up and it's all ruined. Like, he doesn't kill Paul, and I kind of wish he did. Yeah, but that was in my draft 1. That was cut because I just didn't see a point to it. The scene is kind of still there because why would there... Okay, the real reason why it was cut is why is there a piece of glass randomly in the cell? Why? They're not allowed to have, like, it's very... I would be surprised if people missed that. I guess. I don't know. But this fight is still somewhere in draft 3 in the going to be published draft. Except I did a lot of changes, especially since Atlas's personality is different also than from that. So he isn't going to just tackle Paul. Sometimes. So I hope that made sense. All right, so then let's move on to the next scene, cut scene, and that is alleyway. I just put alleyway in my little outline. So what is this, you may ask? Like, why did you just put a random word in your outline? So basically, alleyway is kind of like the old backstory for Persephone, Trinity, and Paul. All their backstories used to be connected. So basically, the gist, I'm just going to spoil all their old backstory because it means nothing now. I changed all of it. But basically, here's the gist. So Persephone and Trinity were abandoned in an alleyway by their mother, who basically left them to go to her other 2 children and their father. So they were abandoned in an alleyway. Then Paul and his 2 older siblings, which are mentioned in the third draft, find them, and then they all make kind of like a cute little family in the alleyway. And Paul's oldest sibling dies, and then Paul, his older sister, Persephone, and Trinity all become kind of like a cute little family. And they live in an alleyway in New York City. So there were a lot of cutscenes with that for flashbacks. There was this one cute one of Persephone and Paul in like second grade, and they're going to school for the first time. It's so sweet. I actually like Paul's still a very controlling person, even as a second grader, but it's just so sweet. I wish I could have kept that scene because I'm like, oh, the cute little baby characters. I don't know why I wrote it. It's so cute. And I also cut out a lot of alleyway stuff, and it was really cool because they lived in an alleyway for 8 years of their lives. So, yeah, I kind of wish I kept it. The reason I didn't, though, let's get into that. This was all in draft 1, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. But all of this was in draft 1. When I started writing draft 2, I realized they needed I got another idea for their current backstory, and I was like, which one should I do? And I asked all my friends. They might remember this, I don't know, but I asked literally everybody. I'm like, hey, which one should I do more? And everybody was like, I like the second one better. And I'm like, okay. and I like it a lot better now too, because it brings everything together, I feel like, especially for like how certain things came to be. So I think it was a good choice. Yeah, but I cut it mostly because I got another idea. And also just was really confusing to follow some of it for the old backstory, for the alleyway backstory. It was really confusing to follow because there were a lot of moving parts. Like, Persephone's mom and dad were together for a little bit, and the dad left, taking one of, I forget. It was just really hard to follow because, like, the dad left, taking some of the siblings, and then the mom abandoned the other two siblings in the alleyway so she can go back to their dad. It was weird. And I changed it for very good reason. They're like, how are people following this? I can't even follow it. All right, so let's move on to our last cutscene, which is the original prologue. So I'm going to kind of spoil it because there's still some elements in this prologue that are still in the new prologue, but this was also a cutscene. So basically, this cutscene was of Paul and his older sister, and basically, they're arguing that entire prologue because basically Paul came up with the idea for Pertho, and he thought his older sister stole the idea because you find this out in the prologue, but in that prologue, and I guess you find this out in the book, it isn't really that climactic, so I'm just going to spoil it anyways, even though it does show up in draft 3. And Lindsay, his older sister, is a government official who runs Pertho's operations from a governmental position. So that was some lore drop on Paul. Hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. But yeah, that's a big thing in the book, especially during Persephone's part. But anyways, so basically that entire old prologue was Paul and Lindsay arguing because Paul's like, you took what was mine. And then Lindsay's like, shut up. No, I didn't. Like, I was the one who came here to wash it. And then she's just like going on and on. And Paul's going on and on. And then Paul vows to kill her because that's normal sibling behavior. That was cut because I was originally going to do that prologue for draft 3, actually, because I did it for 2 drafts. But I wanted to do something different. Like, I felt like it just didn't fit. Okay? I don't know why. I just felt like this prologue was not fitting. It didn't make sense. I felt like it was too much information at the reader. So I'm like, what can I do to make this better? So what I did was I put a bunch. So what I did was do my new prologue, which I can't tell you what that is. Because that's something I'm keeping from everybody. I think only like 2 people have read it. 3. Yeah, 3 people have read it or listened to it. And no, actually that's a lie. 4. Okay, that's the right number. It was 3 of my friends and my mother. That's a lie. My parents. Okay, so 5. Okay, because my parents read it, and then 3 of my friends read it. So only 5 people have ever read this new prologue besides myself. And I got it. Okay, I was just like making sure, like, wait, was there a 6th person in there? No. Except if you count me, but I don't count myself because I wrote it. But yeah, only 5 people have read it. It's a very different prologue than I've ever written. And I think it worked out really well because it gives enough information where you're curious, but it also gives a little bit of like world building, so you're like, oh, okay, kind of understand how this works maybe, and you're curious about it. I think it works out really well. So yeah, that is all the cutscenes I'm sharing. There are probably many more. We are going to interrupt past Olivia for just a second because I just remembered another cutscene that I could share. Okay, this is gonna be really quick. This is kind of like Insider Edition, and then I'm gonna let other me finish the video, past me finish the video. So basically, this goes with the alleyway cutscene, and basically, the old thing, there was another thing with that, which Persephone and Paul used to be best friends before they dated, right? So then, but this is very weird, I think, but Persephone has a huge crush on Paul, okay? But then she finds out Paul is dating Avalon, okay? But that isn't even the worst part. The worst part is that Persephone doesn't even know that's her sister until a very traumatic thing happens. So Paul was technically dating Persephone's sister before he dated her. And then after that traumatic thing happens, Paul decided to date Persephone. This was all in draft 1, by the way. There was no way I was adding this in draft 2. But I have a headcanon now. Okay, guys, I have a headcanon now that Paul dated Avalon at some point. Or, like, has a crush on Avalon or something. Because I just want the sibling drama. Alright, well, that's all I'm doing. That's my last insert headcanon. I'm gonna let other me finish the video now. Thanks. So if you would like me to share some more cutscenes, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Again, thank you for over 100 subscribers. You guys mean the world. And I'm sorry this was a little longer, but I think it's worth it. And I will see you in another video.